The 30 Years' War was actually a series of wars. It began in Bohemia, the present-day Czech Republic. Ferdinand, the King of Bohemia, sought to suppress Protestants and assert royal power over nobles. In May of 1618, a few rebellious Protestant noblemen tossed 2 royal officials out of a castle window in Prague. This act, known as the Defenestration of Prague, sparked a revolt, which Ferdinand moved to suppress. As both sides sought allies, what began as a conflict widened into a general war. The fighting took a terrible toll. Roving armies of mercenaries burned villages, destroyed crops, and killed without mercy. Murder and torture were followed by famine and disease. The war led to a severe depopulation. Exact statistics do not exist, but historians estimate that as many as 1/3 of the people in the German states may have died as a result of the war. Finally, in 1618, the exhausted combatants accepted a series of treaties known as the Peace of Westphalia. Early 1700s, after Emperor Charles IV died with no male heir, his daughter, Maria Theresa, was granted the title of Empress.
Puts in den Spiegel, sag what up. Yeah, I'm getting money. Oh, steige aus dem Bett, dreh den Swag auf, schaue kurz in den Spiegel, sag what up. Yeah, I'm getting.
While Austria was molding a strong Catholic state, a region called Prussia emerged as a new Protestant power. By 1750, the great European powers included Austria, Prussia, France, Britain, and Russia. These nations formed various alliances to maintain balance of power. Though nations sometimes switched partners, 2 basic rivalries persisted. Prussia battled Austria for control of the German states, while Britain and France competed to develop their overseas empires. On occasions, these rivalries resulted in worldwide conflict. The 7 Years' War, which lasted from 1756 until 1763, was fought on 4 continents. In the early 1600s, Russia was still a medieval state, untouched by the Renaissance or Reformation and largely isolated from Western Europe. It remained so until Peter the Great, as he came to be called, used his power to put Russia on the road, becoming a great modern power. Peter, just 10 years old when he took the throne in 1682, did not take control of the government until 1689. Although he was not well educated, the young boy was immensely curious. In 1697, Peter set out to learn about the Western ways for himself. He spent hours walking the streets of European cities, noting the manners and homes of the people. He visited factories and art galleries, learned anatomy from a doctor, and even had a dentist teach him how to pull teeth. Go. Brought to Russia a group of technical experts, teachers, and soldiers he had recruited in Europe. He then embarked on a policy of westernization, that is, the adoption of Western ideas, technology, and culture. But persuading fellow Russians to change their way of life proved difficult. To impose his will, Peter became the most autocratic of Europe's absolute monarchs, meaning that he ruled with unlimited authority. brought many changes to Russia, some which had symbolic meaning. To end the practice of secluding upper-class women in separate quarters, he held grand parties at which women and men were expected to dance together. Russian nobles opposed this radical mixing of the sexes in public, but they had to comply. Peter was modernizing with force. Died in 1725, he had left a mixed legacy. He had modernized much of Russia, but like earlier rulers, he had used terror to enforce his absolute power. His policies contributed to the growth of serfdom, which served only to widen the gap between Russia and the West that Peter had sought to narrow.
Oh my god! Oh my god, he's dead! Oh my god, he's dead! Oh my god, he's
Peter died without an heir, and a new monarch, Catherine the Great, took control and followed in Peter's lead of modernizing Russia. In the 1770s, Catherine, King Frederick II of Prussia, and Emperor Joseph II of Austria hungrily eyed Poland. To avoid fighting one another, the three monarchs agreed in 1772 to divide up Poland. Go!
You know what, guys? You know what we should do? What? We should divide up Poland. Divide up Poland? Yeah! Yeah! Oh!
By the mid-1700s, absolute monarchs ruled 4 of the 5 leading countries in Europe. Britain, with its strong parliament, was the only exception. As these 5 nations competed with one another, they often ended up fighting to maintain a balance of power. At the same time, new ideas were up in the air. Radical changes would soon shatter the French monarchy, upset the balance of power, and revolutionize European societies.